Should marijuana be legalized for all American citizens? By me, and here's my reading. It is important for one to understand that marijuana is not always a negative thing to talk about. Many people use marijuana for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes their friends may do it. Sometimes your older brothers or sisters may do it. So there's no way to avoid the usage of it. And no one has the intention to incriminate themselves, but some may use it to just relax, or some may use it to just chill. The cannabis sativa strain, also known as marijuana, should be legalized because the funding to keep it illegal is costly, the enforcement of the laws are racially biased, and marijuana is a far less potent drug than those compared to LSD and alcohol. This is a video about the historic background about hereditary hemp and the history of it.
Hey everybody, as most of you probably can figure out, I love reading books about ancient history. There are many new books out these days that cast new light on different eras of ancient history, and there are some great ones out there, but what I'm reading the last few days is a book about ancient history that was written in ancient history by this fella here, Herodotus, the Greek writer. And it is called The History of Herodotus, or sometimes it's just called The History, and it is a great read, and Herodotus seems to be an investigative reporter that traveled all over the eastern Mediterranean area from the Egypt region all the way up through Judea and Persia and all the way up to the Black Sea, and just documented how life was around 2,500 years ago. And one of the things I thought was most interesting is he has a couple paragraphs in book 4 where he actually talks about hemp, and I just don't remember seeing hemp written about in such an ancient writing. And it says this, and he's talking about the Scythians here, and the Scythians were a civilization that I believe came out of the Iran, what is now Iran, that area of the world, and their civilization ended up extending all the way from the Black Sea down to the border of Egypt, I believe about 2,600 years ago. It says this, first they well soap and wash their heads. Then in order to cleanse their bodies, they act as follows. They make a booth by fixing in the ground 3 sticks inclined towards one another, and stretching around them woolen felts, which they arrange so as to fit as close as possible. So it sounds like they're making a little tent. Inside the booth, he calls it, a dish is placed upon the ground into which they put a number of red-hot stones, and then add some hemp seed. It says, hemp grows in Scythia. It is very like flax, only that it is much coarser and a taller plant. Some grows wild about the country, some is produced by cultivation, so they were actually growing it in Scythia for beneficial purposes. The Thracians make garments of it, which closely resembles linen. So much so, indeed, that if a person has ever seen hemp, he is sure to think they are linen. And if he has, unless he is very experienced in such matters, he will not know of which material they are. The Scythians, as I said, take some of this hemp seed and, creeping under the felt coverings, throw it upon the red-hot stones. Immediately it smokes and gives out such a vapor as no Grecian vapor bath can exceed. The Scyths, delighted, shout for joy, and this vapor serves them of a water bath, for they never by any chance wash their bodies with water. So, Herodotus talks about making linens, clothes, and also bathing with the smoke of hemp seeds. I just thought that was very interesting, and it just seems to me that today's culture is really the only culture through history that has demonized cannabis, and I am glad research is being done these days that is truly bringing out the truth and the benefits of cannabis. And I have watched some good videos recently, one the other night about how it benefits Alzheimer's patients, and I will leave the link for that below, as well as some other videos. And I am glad we are kind of getting out of this silly reefer madness mindset that just casts a ridiculous light upon cannabis. And I am glad that all the research is being done and people are kind of opening up their minds to this natural plant and the true benefits of it. And that it was ever classified right alongside as heroin and cocaine and methamphetamine as a class 1 drug is one of the stupidest rulings in the history of lawmaking ever in this country.
Alright, so for a long time, marijuana has been cultivated for medicinal uses and psychoactive uses, and that was in the Roman age where Herodotus was using the cannabis fumes. And also in ancient China, they recommended the plant as a surgical anesthetic, so they used weed to basically put you to sleep before surgery. And in America, cannabis became taxed in 1937, but the law really never became like in effect, and then it's not accepted in the modern society today, although medicinal use is being pushed in a positive direction. And it became illegal by Ronald Reagan, but he claimed his scientific sources said that permanent brain damage was one of the reasons for marijuana use. But 6 years later, he proved that the study was withholding information, and the study was actually for carbon monoxide poisoning, not for marijuana. And the high that you feel from marijuana use, it doesn't damage your brain, but it affects your mind and your mood. Alright, the funding. Dr. Jeffrey Myron at Harvard University, he stated that replacing marijuana with a system of taxation would produce combined savings and revenues of about $10 million to $40 billion a year, and as of 2014. And Myron is clearly conveying that keeping marijuana illegal is too high, and then by making the cannabis legal and taxing the marijuana, it can be sold and it can be just as effective as alcohol is, and it can be distributed at public events such as the NFL, Super Bowl, and the NBA playoffs. And taxing marijuana will save more money than the government is spending to keep it illegal, and it could be a step forward to improving the country's debt. According to the ACLU, which is the American Civil Liberties Union, Black people are 3.7 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession than white people, despite the comparable usage rates. And with the police making over 7 million arrests worldwide between the years of 2008 and 2015, the arrests become desperate, and the rates are being deemed problematic because the arrests are being made in poverty-stricken African American communities. So the marijuana arrests are being made due to the color of individual skin and not the usage of it, because basically they're saying that white people use it the same amount as black people do, and they're like going against their slogan, which is CPR on side of police cars: courtesy, professionalism, and respect. And a lot of respect is not taken when they arrest black people, because they usually kind of use brute force against someone other than that's not the same color as them. So if marijuana is legalized, then there'll probably be a little more respect brought to the African American communities.